Now let's look at the developer tools for the align items. Remember, this is the cross axis. It goes up and down vertically. So let's play with some of those variables. We can click on align items where it says center. We can try some other things. We can put stretch in there. And notice that vertically stretches the size of the element to the full flex container. We could put in flex start. You got to turn that back on. And notice how it puts it to the top of the way it's going to flex vertically since it's our cross axis. Let's try flex end on the align items. Now it puts it at the bottom of the container, of the flex container. We can put it back to center. And remember, this is not actually writing into our CSS document. This is just manipulating our design in the browser. That puts them in the center. And then we have the last one, baseline. All right, so remember these two elements. Justify content works along the main axis, which is horizontal in our default setup of row. The align items works along our cross axis, which is vertical. All right, let's go back to our CSS style sheet and change it from the native row, which is horizontal, to actually the opposite, which is flex direction column, which will be vertical. So let's go back to our CSS. And right under this line that says display flex, let's reorient the Flexbox by going flex dash direction. And let's take it away from the native column to the native row, and go to the column orientation. Let's save that. Go back to our browser, refresh it. Notice the orientation is up and down. It's vertical now because we've set our flex direction to flex as a column, which is vertical. If you don't say anything, it's going to flex direction to row, which is the automatic one. Let's go in now and work with actually the height of this flex container. And let's make it 100% of the browser window. So we're going to go back to our CSS. And under flex direction column, we're going to start another declaration of our CSS rule. We're going to go min dash height colon space, and we're going to put in 100, and this may be a new unit to you, VH and a semicolon. VH stands for viewport height. So this can take over the whole viewport or browser window by going 100 VH. Let's save that. Go back to our browser and refresh. And that's taken over our whole viewport because we said 100 VH, that means 100% of the viewport height. So that's looking at it in the flex direction of vertical, which is column. Let's go back and let's clear some of that code out to get back to our regular setup because we want to play with some margin elements now. So in your main CSS style sheet, let's get rid of some of this extra stuff we've put in here. Let's get rid of the flex direction. Let's get the minimum height out of there. Let's get the justify center and the align center out of there. Save that. And let's look at our design before we actually work with margin. So that should give us back everything in our native flex direction of row, which is horizontal, and it got rid of that extra spacing and alignment. So let's look at adding some margins in. Let's go in and let's add where it says navbar sign up. So this is, we want to move this sign up over to the right. So that what we want to look at is we want to look at our CSS and our HTML. Notice there's a class in here that says navbar, and there's a nested class that says sign up right there. So we want to play with the class sign up that's nested inside navbar. So you'll notice we have a combination of those two classes, .navbar and .signup right there. And we want to move that to the right of our flex container by saying margin left auto. So we're going to come down here right above background. We're going to punch in and put a new declaration right here at navbar sign up that says margin, choose left, and we're going to put auto and put your semicolon in. Let's save that. And refresh our browser. And notice how we put the margin left to auto, it shoved the sign up all the way over to the right side so we can control where those line up in our flex boxes. Let's work with the logo now and make sure it's always over on the left side. So we're going to come back into our CSS style sheet. And where it says navbar logo, we're going to punch in right above background. And we're going to go margin right, auto. Put your semicolon in. Save that, and let's refresh our browser. So what's happened here is that pushed the logo all the way over to the left side of our flex container by saying margin right auto, and then it put the two list elements that don't have any margin definition to the middle. So let's bring them all back together by going back into our style sheet and taking away from the navbar.signup rules. Let's take the margin left auto out of that code. We'll refresh that. Now you have everything else pushed over to the right. Here, except the logo, which we've actually declared to have a margin right auto, and everything else is defaulting to the margin left over on the other side. So that is an introduction to Flexbox. You see you have variables, you have different axes. Remember, the main default axis in Flexbox is horizontal. The cross axis goes up and down. That's when it's in the default native state of row. If you set it up to be a flex column, it's going to be vertical. And the main axis will go up and down, and the cross axis will go across horizontally. We'll be looking at more Flexbox code in the next chapter.